Hey there everyone. Today we're going to talk about adding contrasting color to your op art drawings. Now we've discussed contrasting color, and the best way to choose a contrasting color is taking a look at your color wheel. When colors are opposite each other on the color wheel, they are considered complementary. You don't necessarily have to select complementary colors, but you want to think about not selecting colors that are very close to each other on the color wheel because they're going to be a little bit more similar and less different. The more different, the more contrast. So taking a look at the color wheel, opposite colors, yellow and violet, if you see, that's what I used here. I did a little orange and kind of blue-green, which if you take a look, orange and blue-green are not quite complementary, but they're close. And here, what I did was I used magenta, which is kind of like a pink and green. Remember, pink is a tint, meaning a lighter version of red. So it's very similar to using red and green. Okay, but as long as they're kind of far away from each other, they're going to have contrast. And that's what we want to do, is have contrasting colors. So you see I started. I also used a little black colored pencil to add extra shading, and we're going to talk about that today. So I started off, like I said, with kind of a blue-green and an orange. Actually, it's yellow-orange for this one here, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you kind of the process. When you're shading, I'm going to turn this around. It's easier for me to shade sometimes. You want to do an all-over light shade at first. You know the drill. We've been doing this for a while now. But if you notice, I'm having a highlight go kind of down the middle. So I want to make sure it's light in the middle, and you can always take an eraser and lighten up a highlight if you need to. It should almost be the white of the paper, not quite the white of the paper, not necessarily. Unless you have yellow, you might want to use the white of the paper. But just overall light. Then you want to go back in, adding pressure along the edges. On the edges of your shape, that's where you want it to be. I'll zoom in a little bit. There we go. That's where you want it to be the darkest. So I'm pressing harder on these edges. As I get towards the middle, don't want much more pressure, so I'm not adding to it. Really pressing. Don't press so hard that you get that sheen, that shine. That's kind of the point of no return. Once you get your pencil kind of shiny, it's hard to pick it up with an eraser if you need to, lighten it up. And you can't kind of really add any extra layers. And because we want to add some black colored pencil, if you get to the point of that kind of shine, that sheen, you're not going to be able to do it. So that's pretty good for now. Again, I can always add more. But you see it's dark on, there we are, dark on the edges, light in the middle. Now I'm going to grab my black colored pencil. What I'm going to do is, you probably want to wait until you have more. I'm just going to do this little one. But if you have more, it's easier to kind of go all over and do it all at once. In the crevice, in kind of that corner where they meet, I'm doing it on the purple and the yellow first, just to show you. It's going to be harder to do in this little tiny section. It's going to be really dark. Then as you go kind of out, you're going to lighten that pressure. You don't want black in here. You don't even want black over here. You really just want on the edges to really exaggerate your shadow. Now, a little is going to go a long way on a light color like yellow, so you might not have to press as hard. You might press a little bit harder when you get to the purple area to really make it stand out. But a little goes a long way when it's a light color, obviously. Again, over here, and I can even add more on this side if I want, on my orange and my blue-green, my aqua. Yellow, I don't have to press as hard. what this is going to do is going to emphasize your shadow areas. It's really hard on the edges. Fade it out, and it's just on the kind of the smallest amount. You don't want to have a lot of it. If you get kind of the black in the middle here where you want to highlight, that doesn't make sense. There's no shadows where there's a highlight. Okay, so here, again, I don't have that much to go because I already did this side here and there's not much going on here, but I could add a little shadow. But like I said, it makes more sense to kind of do your basic color first and then go back in and do the whole thing. Like I could even, if I really wanted to, kind of just add a slight, I wouldn't go super dark yet, but I can kind of just add a slight shadow, an understanding, and then I can layer my colored pencil over it. It's up to you how you want to do it, but having that black colored pencil will help add that extra dimension of value. Now I just want to quick show you with my heart. I opted, like I said, for a magenta and green instead of red and green. I want to like have a little fun. With this same idea as this one here, you're going to have a highlight in the center of your heart, nice and light. As it gets kind of to the edges, it gets darker. But then if you take a look, what we really want to emphasize here, as you see, is a nice kind of cast shadow or drop shadow. And again, I could do something like that. I can kind of shade around it before I even start adding color. It's up to you. And it's really going to make that shape, in this case a heart. If same idea with your hand, if you did your hand, it would be something similar like this. You want the highlight in the middle, light, just kind of all over, regular old color here, but then really up the contrast. Also take a look, what I did was I just used two colors. I used the magenta and the green, and I flip-flopped it. So where there's green, where it meets up over here, I do the opposite, which is the magenta. Where it's magenta, and then on the outside, I do green. Okay, so take your time with this, and good luck.